on this new tension between Mali and Algeria.
If it's
F1, it's a provocation. If the drone was actually shot down on Malian territory by Algeria, it is really something very concerning and not normal at all. Mali must react according to its feelings.
Whether we have a problem with Algeria, regardless of the origin, it is very serious, and we would rather move towards de-escalation and let the diplomats do their job. We need to sit around the table, so our authorities need to put themselves together, resume dialogue with their Algerian counterparts, and put the ball on the ground.
Other reactions are those of political actors. Through press releases, several political parties have denounced this action by Algeria. Brahima Sidibe is Secretary General of the Fari Anka Wuli Party.
We condemn this act, and we do not understand why Algeria, after all, is a long-standing neighbor of Mali with which we maintain excellent neighborly relations. Therefore, we cannot understand that without warning or any other preventive measure, the Algerian government could directly shoot down a Malian drone, supposedly because this drone violated its airspace.
As tensions between the two countries escalate, the Malian Minister of Foreign Affairs, Abdoulaye Maiga, summoned the Algerian ambassador in Bamako on Monday to inform him of the Malian authorities' dissatisfaction.
Abdoulaye Hassan voiced that report filed by WDR's Bamako correspondent, Ali Cham.
In neighboring Niger, the process of appointing members to the Transitional Parliament has commenced. The Transitional Parliament is also known as the National Consultative Council for Reconstruction of Niger. As the process unfolds, the people of Niger hope that individuals with integrity and merit will be chosen to represent them in this important institution. Christopher Ticho has the details in this report.
The selection of members of the Transitional Parliament or National Consultative Council for the Reconstruction of Niger is generating considerable hope among Nigerians. Some hope to see worthy individuals with a love of their country serve on or represent the people within the council, such as Awao Ibrahim Umaru, president of the Nigerian Association of Web Activists.
Choose the ideal people who are capable or will be capable of leading useful debates, not those who may try at all costs to be courtiers or mere spectators of the situation that affects our country.
However, within the Democratic Union of Workers of Niger, UDTN, expectations are diverse. As a reminder, the establishment of a transitional parliament or National Consultative Council for the Reconstruction of Niger was a promise made by the country's leader, General Abdurrahman Chiani, following the recent national conference.
Christopher Ticho voiced that report as filed by Murtala Zubairu from Niamey.
Elsewhere in Guinea, Mamadi Camara, the former Minister of Economy and Finance during Alpha Conde's regime, made his second appearance before the Court for Economic and Financial Offences CREV on Monday. Camara is facing prosecution for embezzlement of public funds, money laundering and corruption, and illicit enrichment. During the hearing, the civil party requested the establishment of a commission of experts to conduct a counter-expertise, stating that it is necessary to clarify certain aspects of the case. Augustine Colley reports.
The Savour Party's request was promptly rejected by the public prosecutor who opposed this initiative. This case has been postponed multiple times, primarily to allow for the release of the final report from the State Inspectorate General. The report results from a mission to assess the budgetary execution of the Ministry of Economy and Finance for the fiscal years 2018 to 2021. Several inspectors involved in preparing this report have also been summoned to appear before the CREF. Recall, on February 12, 2025, during the proceedings intended to hear these inspectors, George Yahuba Conte read a letter from the State Inspectorate General requesting that their testimonies be conducted in front of camera due to confidentiality concerns. However, such request was outrightly rejected by the court, which proceeded with the hearings on Monday, April 7. During the hearing, the defense lawyer submitted a request for a second expert opinion on the case. In response, the court has set April 14 for deliberation on this request. Mamadi Kamara is facing prosecution for embezzlement of public funds, money laundering, corruption, and illicit enrichment. These charges relate to his leadership of the department from 2018 to 2021.
Augustine Colley with that report.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Now let's bring you some stories from Nigeria first, where simultaneous protests demanding good governance and civil liberties rocked major cities of the country on Monday. Among the group of protesters was a Take It Back movement, which defied police warnings and staged demonstrations. WDR's correspondent in Abuja, Usman Umar, says the protest coincided with National Police Day, raising tensions between demonstrators and security forces. Here's his report.
Protesters from the Take It Back movement marched through parts of Lagos to denounce what they describe as worsening governance, increasing poverty, and a clampdown on freedom of expression in Nigeria. Joined by several civil society groups, the demonstrators converged under the Ikeja Bridge at about 9:30 in the morning and proceeded along Obafemi Awolowo Way, chanting slogans such as "We are hungry" to draw the attention of passers-by. They were escorted by officers of the Nigeria Police Force and the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps as they moved towards the Lagos State House of Assembly. However, a police team led by senior officer Tijani Fatai denied them access to the premises, citing security concerns.
So, Mr. Tijani, you cannot prevent us from accessing our democracy. Allow us to access our democracy. Don't constitute a state.
Similar protests occurred in Abuja, Rivers, Oyo, Yobe, and Gombe states. Speaking to journalists, the national coordinator of Take It Back movement, Juwon Sanyaolu, described the police action as a violation of the protesters' constitutional right to freedom of movement and peaceful assembly.
This is a warning action. So the government of Tinubu not immediately accede to our demands. Number one, repeal the Cybercrime Act of 2024, end the military rule in Rivers State, and stop the ongoing demolition in Shoki and other parts of the country.
Meanwhile, human rights activist and politician Omoyele Sowore criticized the police on his verified Facebook page for attempting to undermine the protest. In a statement issued ahead of the protest, the Nigeria Police Force expressed concern over the timing, noting that it coincided with the National Police Day, which is meant to honor police officers across the country. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Umar reporting from Abuja.
Meanwhile, at least 52 people have been confirmed dead and nearly 2,000 others are displaced after non-state armed men attacked 6 villages in Nigeria's northern Plateau state. Additionally, 22 injured victims were taken to hospital. The motive behind the attacks, which occurred last weekend in Boko's district, has not yet been established. However, the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, released a statement on Sunday indicating that these brutal assaults resulted in multiple fatalities and widespread destruction of property. Wang Tangwong, a journalist in Plateau State, provides details about the situation and the current condition of the affected residents.
All the attacks took place in Bokos local government. Hutu community recorded 40 persons dead, and we had Monguna recording 1 person. Rui community with 11 persons killed. According to our interaction with the people from those communities, the attackers came on motorbikes, set their houses ablaze. Some, they break into the houses, loot food items before setting the houses ablaze. And particularly, there was this family that the children were in the house and the children were burned to ashes. From what the governor disclosed, he said some of the attackers were arrested. He didn't identify who they are, but the locals said the attackers were speaking Fulani dialect. That was what they disclosed, and the governor said some of the attackers were arrested and they are being interrogated by security personnel. But he cleared something. He said, what is happening in Plateau State is not a farmer-herder clash as been narrated, but it is some merchants of violence that are sponsoring some bandits to attack communities. The displaced persons, some sort of IDP camps, schools, worship centers have been turned to places where they are being kept at the moment.
Rang Tangwan, a journalist in Plateau State, northern Nigeria.
The United States ambassador to Liberia, Mark Atona, has issued a stern warning regarding the risk of illegal migration to the United States. Ambassador Turner's latest statement serves as a call for individuals considering unlawful entry into the state, emphasizing the serious legal ramifications that accompany such actions. WDL's Monrovia correspondent Abraham Parker reports.
Ambassador Tunon emphasizes that individuals who violate immigration laws face significant consequences, including potential jail time, deportation, and a permanent ban on obtaining a U.S. visa. He notes the intensified efforts of the Trump administration to strengthen border security, which has led to a substantial decrease in illegal border crossings and an increase in the arrest of individuals attempting to enter the country unlawfully. The U.S. ambassador's statement released on Monday aims to address concerns raised by Liberians about U.S. visa policies and the difficulties they face when applying for tourist visas. Ambassador Tuno highlights the importance of following legal immigration pathways and urges individuals to carefully consider their features. According to him, making the right choices today is crucial in order to avoid devastating consequences for themselves and their families. In a broader context, the article calls on communities to discourage illegal immigration and reinforces the importance of complying with the law. For Newslink on WADR, I'm Abraham Parker reporting from Monrovia.
You're listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal, and live on WADR.org. Here is a reminder of our top stories. Mali and Algeria close airspace amid rising tensions over accusation of military drone shut down. Devastating attack in Nigeria as gunmen kill 52 people, displaced thousands in Plateau State. U.S. ambassador warns Liberians against illegal immigration, urges compliance with U.S. visa policies. And still ahead in the news, Ivorian government launches immunization campaign to vaccinate 3.5 million girls against cervical cancer. We do have the press review, a guest interview, and sports news. Please stay with us.
You are listening to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal.
Don't forget you can listen to us live on WADR.org and follow our live stream on YouTube and Facebook.
Away from Liberia, reactions continue to trail the nomination of Togolese President Faure Gnassingbé to mediate the conflict between the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda. This decision was made over the weekend during a meeting of the African Union's Bureau, chaired by Angolan President João Lourenço. President Lourenço designated the Togolese leader to take on this mediation mission, emphasizing the importance of maintaining ongoing dialogue between the two parties involved. However, questions loom about the possibility of President Gnassingbé resolving the conflict. Christian Gerard Nema, a Congolese international relations expert, provides his analysis.
It's going to be difficult to see what President Faure Gnassingbé can bring on the table, because the idea is always to have a mediator that's close to the conflict, that has a skin into the game in a way that it can influence the stakeholders involved in the conflict in a way to get to a peace agreement. We had that with President João Lourenço. He's a border country with the DRC. He's also had close proximity with President Paul Kagame from Rwanda. He had enough leverage as regional power to be able to get the both countries to sit together and talk. But President Faure Gnassingbé from Togo is a far away from the conflict area. Some can argue that that distance gave him enough of distance to be able to look into the conflict from a very distant perspective without having to give his own personal opinion. However, that distance also can be detrimental to his ability to strike a deal between Rwanda and the DRC. Although he has been developing close proximity with President Tshisekedi and also historical closeness with President Paul Kagame, but the fact that he's far away from the conflict area can be very difficult, because the question is going to become, what leverage does it have on President Tshisekedi, on President Paul Kagame, to be able to get them to sit on the table? I'm really not sure if the African Union initiative is going to really yield the result that we're expecting that to yield on the ground.
Christian Gerard Nema is a Congolese international relations expert. In health news, the Ivorian government is ramping up efforts to prevent the spread of cervical cancer across the country. As part of its measures, the government officially launched a cervical cancer vaccination campaign in the Bay region on Monday, April 7, 2025. This initiative by Côte d'Ivoire aims to address the rising rate of cervical cancer among women and girls in the West African nation. More than 3.5 million girls aged 9 to 18 are being targeted in this vaccination campaign aimed at preventing cervical cancer in Côte d'Ivoire. During a ceremony held in Mankong, Ambroise Diomande, the campaign is organized by the Coordination Directorate of the Expanded Program on Immunization, with the support from organizations such as WHO, UNICEF, Gavi, Geopo, and other technical and financial partners.
This is the newspaper review. Stay abreast and find out what the top stories are in your country.
This is the newspaper review.
The newspaper review.
Well, let's join Ibrahim Bakr Monrovia for the newspaper review.
This edition begins with front page Africa newspaper with the first headline on the front page: nearly 50 Liberia Revenue Authority employees on probe for alleged insurance fraud. Well, according to sources, employees of the Liberia Revenue Authority are suspected of submitting fraudulent hospital receipts to claim benefits, defrauding the institution of thousands of United States dollars. Don't risk your future. The United States cracks down on illegal immigration. In photo is U.S. Ambassador to Liberia, Mark Turner. Stayed on the front page, Armed Forces of Liberia gives update on progress of Operation True Guardian in Western Liberia. You are the future, Asila Mentai tells young people in Liberia. And Doe family condemns exclusion from Samuel K. Doe burial plans, reaffirms commitment to honoring late president with dignified burial. Our next stop is the Daily Observer newspaper with this story that is taking lead in almost all of the papers. Don't risk jail or deportation. Well, this is coming from the U.S. Embassy near Monrovia, warning Liberians against illegal entry to the United States of America. Liberia Poverty Assessment, a welfare state for politicians. Liberia needs another female Chief Justice. AFELL advocates for the appointment of a female justice in Liberia following Chief Justice Yaw's retirement. State on the Daily Observer, the Environmental Justice Foundation validates mapping small-scale fisheries, lending smoking sites in 4 counties. Our last stop is the Liberian Investigator with these headlines. Liberia taps UNRSA for groundbreaking public sector training deal. Councillor Charlene Bronskin, corruption is the enemy within, urges judiciary integrity at Bar Convention. Well, that does it for this Tuesday's edition from Liberia's capital. It's back to you in studio.
Many thanks, Abraham Parker there.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Now, relations between Algeria and the Confederation of the Sahel States have taken a nosedive with airspaces closed. It deteriorated further when on Monday, Algiers recalled its ambassadors to Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. The countries of the ACE Confederation announced the day before the recall of their ambassadors to Algeria. The population are therefore calling for a de-escalation of the crisis. All our guests, the security specialist Siddiq Abba, he spoke with my colleague Mustafa Jakite.
Non, c'est un nouvel épisode dans la crise diplomatique.
No, this is a new episode in the diplomatic crisis between Mali and Algeria. It should not be forgotten that before this incident, there was first the decision of the Malian authorities to take over by force in November 2023 the Kidal region, which was under the group of former rebels who signed the Algiers Accord. And Algeria, as a mediator, did not look favorably on Bamako's offensive to retake Kidal by force, especially since the rebel axis had retreated to the common border between Algeria and Mali to reorganize themselves militarily. And for Bamako, Algeria has turned a blind eye to its reorganization of the army, so there has been a deterioration in relations between the two countries in the element I have just mentioned. In November 2000, in December 2023, the audience that had been granted in Algiers by Algerian President Abdelmadjid Tebboune to Imam Mahmoud Dicko, who had nevertheless become the black sheep of the military regime in Bamako. And then this episode of the drone that was shot down on the night of March 29 to April 1. As he recalled with different versions, Algeria said that the drone had an offensive trajectory and that it had even returned to its A, while Bamako disputes this by saying that the drone was shot down in Malian territory, even though it was pursuing terrorists. So you see, all this can only be explained by the loss of confidence in the relationship that there has been between the two countries.
Qu'il poursuivait des terroristes. Donc vous voyez, tout ça ne peut s'expliquer que par la perte de confiance dans la relation qu'il y a eu entre les deux pays.
How far will this tension go given the turn of events with the record of the ambassadors of the AES countries in Algiers and Algeria who are riposting by doing the same?
Oui, et jusqu'ici, la dégradation des relations, c'était...
Yes, and until now, the deterioration of relations that has been limited to Bamako and Algiers. There is this entry of Burkina Faso and Niger. There is a concerted position of the AES. I think that Mali wants to create a balance of power because so far, it alone against the big Algerian neighbors has not succeeded in settling the issue. Now it has called in the other two AES countries for reinforcement. In my opinion, we are in a position of escalation since Algeria has also recalled its ambassador to Mali and Niger and has suspended the procedures for the accreditation of its ambassador in Bamako. We are in an escalation from which no one will benefit, since, as we know, Algeria shares with Mali 1,300 kilometers of border, and Algeria shares with Niger more than 900 kilometers of border. You see, if there is no cooperation, even if only on the security front, it is in no one's interest that the escalation continues, and the diplomatic means must be found to calm things down.
D'apaiser les choses.
Is there hope for a return to normalcy in relations between the AES and Algeria?
In the long term, in my opinion, the two countries will have no choice but to cooperate. You know, you don't choose your neighbor. And in view of the long border that Algeria has with Niger and Mali, and the interests of these two countries in Algeria, I think that after this phase, there will be a period of de-escalation where the countries will come together.
Our guest there was security specialist Sadiq Abba, speaking there with my colleague Mustafa Jakite. In sport news, Gambia has been given one more chance for World Cup qualification. What does this mean to all Gambians? Uncle Janko will be telling us more.
Well, yes, right, Imo Edet, let's go straight with the sport news because the journey to Qatar 2025 intensifies as, of course, the Gambia, Uganda, Angola and Egypt prepare to fight for the final two African slots at the FIFA Under-17 World Cup on Saturday. With the quarterfinals of the 2025 CAF Under-17 Africa Cup of Nations already guaranteed a place at the Global Soapies, these playoff fixtures represent a second chance for the teams who narrowly miss out on the top two finish in their groups. The format is straight: 2 matches, 1 night, with the winners advancing to do Africa's, of course, 6 World Cup representatives in Qatar later this year. That's how it is.
So, very interesting.
Yes, of course, the Gambia will take on, Uganda, and then the other game will be, of course, for South Africa, and to start another chance for them to secure qualification.
What's the chance of them qualifying?
The chances of them against qualifying, I think, is really high.
Within 1 to 10.
But yes, but there is another story, Imo, before we go.
Please go ahead.
Yes, because there was some very good news apparently for perhaps Africa. Nigeria will soon, of course, host the Commonwealth, because the Nigerian Olympic Committee (NOC) announced it has met the March 28, 2025 deadline for the expression of interest to bid for the 2030 Commonwealth Games. Nigeria lost a bid to host the 2014 Commonwealth Games to Glasgow, of course, that's Scotland. A statement released by the NOC spokesperson Tony Nzewanya said that Nigeria's bid for the 2030 Games in the capital city Abuja will present a unique opportunity to showcase its development, enhance its global standing, and of course, incorporate its sport culture, which I totally agree.
Indeed, with that, we end sport news. And that's it on this edition of Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening. And many thanks to the team of Mustafa Sek, Sheikh Jai, Mam Kurdu for the technical support. And do interact with us on all of our social media platforms, X, Instagram, at WDR News. Coming up at the bottom of the hour is a rebroadcast of our youth program in English, Take the Lead. And of course, I am Imo Edet.
And I am Sankule Janko.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, New